When my wife Naomi died, the hospital room felt too quiet for something so permanent. The machines were still on. The lights were still bright. Nurses moved in and out like the world hadn't just split in half. But for me, everything stopped the moment she looked at me and smiled, weakly, painfully, and reached for my hand. Naomi had been fighting for months. Not loudly. Not dramatically. She fought the way she did everything else in life, quietly, stubbornly, determined not to be a burden on anyone. Even when the doctors started using words like terminal and comfort care, she still asked about our son's homework and whether I remembered to pay the water bill. That was who she was. On her last night, when visiting hours were almost over and the room smelled faintly of disinfectant and fear, she squeezed my fingers and said something that didn't sound like a request. "Please take care of my mom." Her voice wasn't weak then. It was focused. Serious. "She's alone," Naomi continued. "She won't ask for help. She never does. Promise me you won't forget her." I didn't hesitate. I didn't ask questions. I didn't think about money or time or what that promise might cost. I nodded and said yes, because saying no wasn't an option. Some promises don't feel like choices. They feel like duties. Naomi passed away before sunrise. The days that followed blurred together, funeral arrangements, paperwork, condolences that sounded the same no matter who said them. Her mother, Lillian, stood stiffly at the service, accepting hugs without returning them. She barely looked at me. At the time, I told myself it was grief. I wanted to believe that. A week after the funeral, Lillian handed me a small piece of paper. An account number. A routing code. No explanation. "Naomi told me you'd handle it," she said flatly. And that was that. The first transfer happened the following month. $300. A clean number. Not too big. Not too small. It felt reasonable, like something Naomi would have carefully calculated in advance. I remember staring at the confirmation screen longer than I should have. Seeing her name attached to the transaction made it feel official. Necessary. Almost sacred. That transfer became routine faster than I expected. Month after month, the money went out. No reminders. No follow-up calls. Lillian never said thank you. She never asked how I was holding up. She never asked about our son, Caleb. At first, I noticed that. Then I stopped. Grief has a way of simplifying things. You cling to whatever feels solid. For me, that monthly payment became proof that I was still doing something right in a world that felt broken. I told myself it was the least I could do. I told myself Naomi would have wanted it this way. And most importantly, I told myself that keeping that promise meant I hadn't failed her completely. I didn't realize then that promises made in moments of love can quietly turn into chains when no one questions them. Because at that point, I wasn't thinking about the future. I wasn't thinking about how long taking care might last. I was just trying to survive 1 month at a time without her. And I had no idea that decision, made in a hospital room, with good intentions and a broken heart, would follow me for years. I believed that promise would help us heal. I didn't know it would quietly control my life for the next 6 years. Before we continue, take a moment to like this video, subscribe for more real-life stories, and comment where you're watching from. And as you listen, tell me, what caught your attention first in this story? Let's move on, because what started as a simple promise soon became something much heavier. Grief changes how you measure things. Time felt meaningless back then, but money stayed painfully real. Every month, on the same day, the transfer went through. $300. Automatically deducted before groceries, before savings, before anything extra for Caleb. I built my budget around that payment without even realizing it. It became untouchable. At first, I didn't feel the weight of it. I was still numb. Still adjusting to an empty side of the bed. Still learning how to braid Caleb's hair for school and pretending I knew what I was doing. Sending that money felt like structure, like purpose. But as months turned into years, the sacrifices became clearer. I stopped replacing worn-out shoes, delayed fixing the car longer than I should have, said no to school trips I desperately wanted Caleb to experience. Whenever something unexpected came up, my eyes went straight to the bank app, and I'd immediately close it. That money wasn't negotiable. Caleb noticed more than I thought. One evening, while we were eating dinner, rice and beans, again, he asked why we never ordered pizza anymore. I laughed it off, told him it was healthier. He nodded, but I could tell he didn't believe me. Still, he never complained. Sometimes, late at night, I wondered if Lillian really needed the money. She never called to ask for more. Never explained what it was used for. She just accepted it. Quietly. Consistently. Once a year, I'd send a short message. "Hope you're well." The reply, if it came at all, was brief. Polite. Distant. I convinced myself that was just her personality. I also convinced myself that this was temporary. That someday things would stabilize. That eventually, something would change. But nothing did. The payments continued. My life shrank around them. And without realizing it, I stopped asking myself an important question: why? It wasn't until the 6th year that something small, almost insignificant, broke the pattern. Something I nearly ignored. I never missed a payment. Not once. And that's exactly why the first irregularity unsettled me so deeply. The alert came on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I was at work, halfway through a meeting, when my phone vibrated. I glanced down, expecting the usual confirmation message, the same one I'd seen dozens of times before. But this one looked different. The amount was the same. $300. The date was the same. But the account name wasn't. It was close, almost identical, but not exact. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe the bank updated something. Maybe I was just tired. Grief doesn't disappear just because time passes, it settles into you, dulls your attention. Still, that feeling lingered. That evening, after Caleb went to bed, I opened my banking history and scrolled back. Month after month. Year after year. Everything looked normal until I noticed something subtle. About a year earlier, the receiving account details had changed. Not the number. The routing stayed the same. But the label had been edited. Slightly reformatted. Like someone had re-registered the account under a different description. It wasn't proof of anything. Just a detail. But details matter. I called Lillian the next day. I kept my voice calm. Casual. Asked how she was doing. Asked about her health. Then, as lightly as I could, I mentioned the bank notification. "Oh, that?" she said quickly. "The bank made some changes." "It's nothing." Her answer came too fast. I waited for her to elaborate. She didn't. Something tightened in my chest, not fear exactly, but unease. The kind that tells you there's more to a story than what's being said. After the call ended, I sat there holding my phone, replaying her tone in my head. Flat. Defensive. Almost annoyed. For the first time in 6 years, I wondered if I truly knew where that money was going. And once that question entered my mind, it refused to leave. Because suddenly, I realized something that made my stomach drop. I had been sending money faithfully, without ever confirming who was actually receiving it. That night, I understood something unsettling. I knew exactly how much I was sending, but I had no idea who was touching it. Once doubt takes hold, it changes how you see everything. I started noticing things I would have ignored before, small inconsistencies, half-remembered details. And the more I tried to dismiss them, the louder they became. One Saturday morning, while looking for Caleb's birth certificate, I opened the old storage box where Naomi kept important documents. I hadn't touched it in years. The smell alone, dust, old paper, faded perfume, it hit me harder than I expected. I told myself I was just being practical. Inside were neatly labeled folders. Medical records. Insurance policies. Letters Naomi never sent. Then, tucked between two envelopes, I found a folded document I didn't recognize. It was a copy of a lease agreement. The date stopped me cold. It had been signed 3 months after Naomi's funeral. At first, I assumed it was a mistake. Maybe an old draft. Maybe something misfiled. But the name printed at the top was hers. Not a nickname. Not a variation. Her full legal name. The address wasn't one I knew. What made my hand shake wasn't just the date, it was the signature. I'd seen Naomi sign things hundreds of times. Birthday cards. School forms. Mortgage papers. This signature didn't match. It was careful. Deliberate. Like someone signing slowly to disguise familiarity. I sat there for a long time, staring at that piece of paper, trying to find a reasonable explanation. I wanted one badly. Maybe it was forged. Maybe someone had used her identity after she died. That was possible. Unlikely, but possible. But then I noticed something else. A forwarding address, handwritten at the bottom. The handwriting wasn't Naomi's either. And suddenly, this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about identity. 2 documents. 2 different handwritings. And neither one fit the woman I buried. I didn't confront anyone. Not yet. Instead, I did what people do when they're afraid of the truth. I looked for information that wouldn't talk back. A friend from college worked at a regional bank. We weren't close, but close enough that I could ask a question without raising suspicion. I didn't give names. I didn't give context. I just described a transaction pattern. He listened quietly. Then he said something that made my pulse spike. That account doesn't behave like someone living on support, he explained. It behaves like a pass-through. I asked what that meant. It means the money doesn't stay. It moves. Fast. That night, I reviewed years of transaction timing. Every deposit. Every clearance. Every confirmation. I'd never paid attention before, why would I? But now, the pattern was obvious. Within hours of my transfer, the funds were withdrawn or redirected. Sometimes split. Sometimes transferred again. Occasionally combined with other deposits. Other deposits. That part stunned me. My money wasn't alone. Who else was paying into that account? And why? The more I looked, the clearer it became. This wasn't survival money. This was organized. Predictable. Structured. Like a system. And suddenly, a thought formed that I didn't want to finish. What if the payment I believed was helping someone survive was actually helping someone hide? That's when I understood something terrifying. This wasn't generosity anymore. It was participation. Waited 3 days before going there. I don't know why. Maybe I needed time to breathe. Maybe I hoped the feeling would fade. But it didn't. Every hour, that address burned in my mind like an unanswered question. On a quiet Wednesday afternoon, I left work early and drove across town. The neighborhood wasn't dramatic. No abandoned buildings. No luxury homes. Just a clean, well-kept apartment complex with trimmed hedges and parked cars that belonged to people living ordinary lives. That somehow made it worse. I sat in my car for several minutes before getting out, watching people come and go. Parents carrying groceries. A man walking his dog. Normal life unfolding in front of me. According to the lease, Naomi had lived here. I walked to the management office with the document folded in my jacket pocket. My hands were steady, but everything inside me felt off balance. The woman at the desk barely glanced at the paper before typing into her computer. Yes, she said after a moment. That tenant lived in Unit 214. My mouth went dry. I asked if the unit was vacant. She shook her head. No, it's currently occupied. By who? I wanted to ask. But I already knew the answer would change everything. I thanked her and walked back outside, my legs moving on instinct. Unit 214 was on the second floor, at the far end of the building. The hallway was quiet. Too quiet. I stopped in front of the door. For a moment, I considered turning around, pretending I'd never come. But then I heard a voice from inside. Soft. Familiar. Laughing. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure someone could hear it. The door opened before I could knock. She stood there, holding a grocery bag. Naomi. Not a ghost. Not a memory. Real. Breathing. Alive. Her hair was shorter. She looked healthier. Stronger. But it was her. There was no doubt. The woman I buried was standing inches away from me. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then her face drained of color. You weren't supposed to find me, she whispered. In that moment, the years collapsed into something unbearable. The funeral. The promises. The money. The grief. All of it had been built on a lie. My wife hadn't died. She had been living 20 minutes away, under her real name. Seeing Naomi alive hit me like a shockwave I couldn't escape. Her eyes met mine, wide and calculating, as if she were trying to measure how much I had discovered. The grocery bag in her hand suddenly felt like a prop in a performance I'd unknowingly been part of for 6 long years. I asked the first question that came to mind, trying to stay calm. Why? Naomi blinked. She looked down at the bag, then back at me. You don't understand. I had no choice. Her voice was steady, almost rehearsed. That calmness terrified me more than anger ever could. I swallowed hard. No choice? You faked your death. You let me believe you were gone. I sent money, thousands of dollars, thinking I was helping someone survive. How is that no choice? She shifted uncomfortably. It started simple, she said. I was trapped. Things weren't working at home. I thought if I disappeared, everyone would move on. It was supposed to be temporary. Temporary? I spat. 6 years? That's temporary? Her hands trembled slightly now, revealing the first crack in her control. It got complicated. Then, I realized people depended on me. And the money. I didn't know how to stop it without destroying everything I'd built. I noticed a flash of panic in her eyes as I stepped closer. The weight of betrayal pressed down on me like a collapsing ceiling. Every memory of grief, every sleepless night, every penny sent, all of it had been part of her plan. And then came the truth I wasn't ready to hear. I wasn't alone, she admitted. Lillian helped. It became systematic. People pay for grief. They're predictable. They never ask questions if they believe it's for someone they loved. It's lucrative. My stomach turned. She weaponized love, exploited grief, turned devotion into profit. I thought of Caleb, of the sacrifices, of every dinner we skipped, every school trip missed. All for a lie. Her voice dropped lower, almost casual, like she was explaining the weather. There are others. Men like you. Families like yours. We manage multiple operations. It's careful. Efficient. Minimal risk. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just personal anymore. It was criminal. And I had been feeding it unknowingly. I clenched my fists, feeling a surge of determination I hadn't felt in years. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. She noticed the change in me, the resolve hardening in my expression. Her eyes flicked to the street behind me, then back to mine. "If you go to the authorities." I didn't wait. I didn't hesitate. "I will. And I'll make sure every family you've hurt gets justice." Her face paled. The calm mask slipped, replaced by fear. I took a step back, letting the weight of what I had just uncovered sink in. She had built a web of lies, exploiting my love, my grief, and the devotion I thought was sacred. But now, she had underestimated me. And that mistake would cost her everything. I realized in that moment, the person I loved, the woman I buried, had been running a fraud that spanned multiple states. And now, it was time to bring it all down. After that confrontation, I couldn't just sit and wait. Naomi had underestimated me. She had no idea I wasn't just a grieving husband anymore. I was a man determined to uncover the truth, piece by piece. The first step was gathering evidence. I called Marcus, a private investigator a friend had recommended years ago. I explained everything: the lease, the bank transactions, the grocery bag encounter. He didn't flinch. He listened and said simply, "We need records. Everything. Bank statements, hospital documents, insurance papers. And we need witnesses." I spent the next few days collecting every scrap of information I had. Emails, old letters, Naomi's documents, receipts, anything that could provide a breadcrumb in this labyrinth she'd created. Then came the breakthrough. I received a copy of the bank statements Marcus had requested. At first glance, they seemed normal: deposits, withdrawals, typical account activity. But when we compared the timing of my payments to other deposits, a pattern emerged. Someone had set up multiple accounts using names like Diane Jefferson, Naomi's mother, and other aliases. The money I sent wasn't staying put, it was being moved immediately, sometimes split between 3 or 4 different accounts. And that wasn't all. There were deposits from other sources, men just like me, someone else's devotion being exploited in the same way. Marcus looked at me, his eyes sharp. "You're not the only victim. This is organized. Methodical. And it's been running for years." I felt a chill. The reality hit harder than any grief I had felt before. Naomi hadn't acted alone. This was a network, carefully orchestrated, preying on love and trust. We needed more proof. Surveillance footage. Addresses. Connections between the accounts. And if we were going to bring them down, we needed hard evidence that couldn't be dismissed. Marcus suggested a quiet trip to Riverside Apartments, the lease address. He wanted to confirm who was living there now. I parked a few blocks away and watched. People came and went. Then I saw her. Naomi, unmistakable, moving with the ease of someone living freely, completely unaware or unconcerned that her secret world was crumbling. Marcus handed me a folder with more surprises. Life insurance documents. Medical discharge papers. Multiple identities. Every record contradicted what I had believed. Naomi had been alive, healthy, while I mourned and sacrificed. I felt rage and disbelief swirl together. But more than anything, I felt clarity. I could finally see the structure of the deception. Every payment, every letter, every gesture had been calculated to keep me blind. And now, I had the pieces to fight back. We had the pattern, the names, the evidence, and the first legal angle to bring the network down. But exposing Naomi and her co-conspirators would put me in danger. And that's exactly what she wanted me to feel. The next morning, I received a call that made my stomach drop. "Mr. Williams?" said a calm, measured voice. "This is Agent Sarah Chen, FBI, White Collar Crimes Division. We've been following a financial fraud network for some time. We need to meet today." I nearly dropped the phone. "The FBI? Just like that?" "Yes, sir. Bring any documents you have. We'll take it from there." Within the hour, Marcus and I were at a small federal office downtown. The building was nondescript, but inside, agents moved with precision that suggested nothing slipped past them. Agent Chen greeted us, her expression professional but empathetic. She reviewed the evidence we had: bank statements, medical records, lease agreements, emails, and photographs of Naomi. Every file, every note, every record showed a web of deceit so meticulous it was almost impressive. If it weren't criminal. "Mr. Williams," she said, looking directly at me, "we have been trying to connect multiple victims to this network. Your case is pivotal. Naomi Williams, using multiple aliases, has been exploiting grieving spouses for at least 6 years. Your payments are only part of the scheme. There are dozens of others like you." The words hit me like a punch. My grief, my devotion, my sacrifices, it wasn't just personal betrayal. It was systematic manipulation. We spent the next few hours going through timelines, cross-referencing bank transfers, and identifying co-conspirators. The FBI had resources I could only dream of: surveillance equipment, access to financial databases, contacts across multiple states. Agent Chen paused at one point, looking at me carefully. "The moment we act is crucial. We need to coordinate with state authorities to avoid alerting them prematurely. If Naomi's suspects were onto her, she could vanish, or worse." I nodded, a chill running down my spine. Naomi had always been careful, calculating. This wasn't going to be easy. Then came the breakthrough. Marcus had tracked Naomi's recent activities. Using shipping records, rental history, and photos, we now knew she had been living in Florida for the past year. She was pregnant and still maintaining the financial network across 3 states. "And that's just the beginning," Marcus said quietly. "There are at least 3 other women coordinating with her, each with their own network of targets." I realized the scale of the deception was staggering. What I thought was a personal betrayal had spiraled into a multi-state criminal enterprise. Agent Chen leaned forward, her voice low. "We can bring them down, Mr. Williams. But we need your cooperation. You'll have to confront her indirectly, gather evidence, and work closely with us to ensure this is airtight in court." I felt a surge of resolve. For the first time in 6 years, I wasn't just a victim. I had a chance to protect other families, to turn my grief into action. And that's when the call came from Naomi herself. Her voice was controlled, deceptively calm. "Mr. Williams, I know what you've done. Don't even think about crossing me." I didn't respond immediately. But inside, I knew one thing: the cat-and-mouse game had begun. Naomi had issued a warning, but the FBI was now involved. Every move I made would be watched, every decision could expose or protect the truth. The next steps would determine who controlled the story, her or me. If this twist shocked you, hit like now. Comment: would you have called the FBI immediately, or tried to handle her yourself? And make sure to subscribe, now. We set the trap that could finally end the deception once and for all. After Naomi's call, everything changed. The FBI instructed me not to block her, not to confront her again, and definitely not to warn her. Every message, every missed call, every sudden silence became evidence. For the first time in years, I stopped the monthly payment. The effect was immediate. Within 48 hours, Naomi reached out again, this time under one of the numbers I didn't recognize. Her tone had shifted. The calm certainty was gone, replaced by urgency. "You forgot," she said. Not a question. A test. I followed the script Agent Chen had given me. I apologized. I said work had been chaotic. I promised to fix it soon. I could almost hear her relax through the phone. That reaction told the agents everything they needed to know. Over the next 2 weeks, I became part of a controlled operation. I sent messages at scheduled times. I delayed payment strategically. Each response Naomi gave revealed more: new names, new accounts, new emotional manipulation tactics. She couldn't help herself. People who rely on control panic when it slips. Meanwhile, the FBI tracked the movement of money across accounts. They mapped the flow, identified shell accounts, and connected Naomi's communications to other known cases. Every lie she told strengthened the case against her. Then came the final step. Agent Chen told me they needed a direct confirmation, something undeniable. A conversation where Naomi acknowledged the scheme and her role in it. I agreed. The call was recorded. I asked her why the money had to move so quickly after it arrived. I asked why the account name had changed. I asked why she couldn't stop the payments if everything was legitimate. There was a long pause. Then she laughed. Because you were never the only one, she said. And because people like you always pay. Grief makes people obedient. That was it. The line went quiet. Agent Chen nodded. The room felt heavy, but calm. They had what they needed. Within hours, warrants were issued. By the end of the week, multiple arrests were underway across 3 states. Bank accounts were frozen. Properties were seized. The system Naomi built began collapsing faster than she could escape it. But I knew the hardest part was still ahead. Because justice doesn't erase the past. And I was about to face the consequences of loving someone who never existed the way I believed she did. The arrests made the news, but the real confrontation hadn't happened yet. And when it did, it would force me to decide what closure really means. The morning was quiet. Too quiet. After the arrests, the world seemed to pause. Naomi and her network were behind bars, their carefully constructed lives unraveling under federal scrutiny. But for me, the silence wasn't peaceful, it was heavy with all the years of grief, confusion, and betrayal I'd endured. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at Zara's breakfast untouched. She looked at me, eyes wide with innocent trust, unaware of the storm that had just passed over our lives. Her world was still simple, still safe. And I vowed it would stay that way. Marcus had dropped off the final folder of documents from the FBI, proof of Naomi's multiple identities, her life insurance frauds, and the other victims who had finally been connected to her network. Agent Chen called later that day. Mr. Williams, the case is airtight. Naomi Williams, aka Naomi Martinez, has been charged with wire fraud, conspiracy, identity theft, and multiple counts of insurance fraud. Her accomplices are also in custody. The network won't hurt anyone else. Hearing it out loud, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. Justice had been served, but the years of deception couldn't be returned. Over the next few weeks, life began to reclaim a sense of normalcy. The monthly $300 payments that had drained my accounts were redirected into Zara's college fund. The extra hours I had worked to keep up with Naomi's false demands finally went to bills, repairs, and even a few small treats for my daughter, ice cream cones, art supplies, and a trip to the local aquarium. I met with the families of other victims. People whose grief had been manipulated like mine. Seeing their faces, hearing their stories, I realized my experience had saved others. That thought became a kind of quiet satisfaction, a purpose that grew from the ashes of betrayal. Then came the hardest conversation, telling Zara the truth. She was 8 years old, bright, compassionate, and intuitive. "Daddy, why did Mommy leave us?" she asked one evening as we sat on the porch watching the sunset. I swallowed hard. For years, I had built a story around a death that never happened. Now, I had to dismantle it gently. "Zara," I said slowly, choosing my words with care, "Mommy made some choices that weren't safe for her or for us. She isn't here the way we thought, but you are safe. We are safe. And that's what matters." Her brow furrowed, but she nodded, trusting my voice more than her imagination. "So we're going to be okay?" "Yes, sweetheart. We are going to be okay." Life didn't magically become perfect. The emotional scars of betrayal lingered. I had to rebuild trust with myself, with others, and most importantly, with my own heart. I returned to work, now a promoted electrical supervisor, mentoring younger colleagues and applying lessons learned from a life that had demanded resilience. Each circuit I repaired, each system I calibrated, reminded me that careful attention and patience bring stability, something I had learned firsthand in life beyond Naomi's lies. Months later, I stood with Zara at a small graduation for children in our neighborhood. She had grown stronger, kinder, and even more aware of the world's complexities. Watching her laugh freely, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The $18,000 recovered from federal asset forfeiture had rebuilt our home, but more importantly, it symbolized truth prevailing over deception. Every photograph, every memory we now created was genuine, unmanipulated, and ours alone. As the sun dipped below the horizon that evening, I sat on the porch, holding Zara's hand. I realized that life isn't about avoiding pain, but learning to rise after it. The woman who had faked her death, stolen from me, and manipulated my grief was gone. What remained was a life I could call my own. And for the first time in 6 years, I was free to love authentically, to live honestly, and to protect the most important person in my world. If this story moved you, like this video. Comment below, what part shocked you the most, and what lesson would you take from Jerome's journey? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that reveal how truth and resilience can triumph over deception.